a river that actually connects to another lake, that connects to a bunch of more lakes. That goes, all the connection goes right up to the Arctic Circle. How far away would you put it? Like, just, if anyone wants to spits out like a, a kilometer, 2 kilometers, anybody?
400.
How?
400.
400 kilometers? 400 kilometers? Anybody else?
On the moon.
The moon? Those are really good spots. Anybody else?
Right beside it.
Yeah, actually, that's what they did. I think the distance between it would be from this wall here to maybe not that wall, but the wall behind it, where the bathrooms are. That's how close it is. I think it might be a little bit closer, actually. That's how close it is. And it's actually a slow oil spill that's seeping through the earth. Oh yeah, so they laid all this this white sand down, and they created these huge like pools. What would you put to insulate between the toxic sludge and the earth? What would you use? Anybody?
No. Cement.
Cement. That's a good choice. Anybody else?
Plastic.
Right.
Pardon?
Plastic?
Plastic would be great. Anybody else? Just one more guess. I would seriously put saran wrap. Like, that's what I would do. I'd lay a bunch of saran wrap down. But they don't do anything. They just take all the toxic sludge and they just pour it directly onto the land. I don't know how that's ethical. I don't know how that's smart. I don't know how that's environmentally friendly. But right now there is the slowest oil spill going from the tailings ponds into the Athabasca River. It's happening right now as we speak. The other biggest problem I have with this is that there's like no real way to deal with it at all. They have 2 plans. The first plan is they put another element into it, and this idea comes from Australia. I don't know why Australia is the leading experts on this, but they are. You take another element and you infuse it into the tar sands. And it creates something that kind of looks like the soil, and they can plant trees and they can kind of reclaim the land. However, if you want to develop anything on there, anything with any substantial weight, like say a car, will sink once you drive into it. It'll look normal until you start walking, and it'll sink. So there's no like development of buildings or anything around. What kind of species can grow out of that? What kind of species of trees can grow out of that? I really don't know. The biodiversity they have for land reclamation is very minuscule. It's very, very small, and it's proving to be cost-worthy and ineffective. It's like a really bad idea they're just dragging out. The other thing that they're going to do with it is make an end pit. So they're going to dig a bigger hole in the earth, and they're going to divert all that toxic sludge into one big pool. And I don't know what they're going to use to insulate. Seriously, if they're going to do that, I'll take some saran wrap myself, and I'll just go into the bottom. Because what they're going to do is they're going to concentrate toxic sludge into one area. Does anybody know what happens when you have what happens when you have a river that has nothing around it, like no industry around it? It's clean. It's clean water because it flows. Does anybody knows what happens when you take a lake that's not affected by industry, but it's just stagnant water? Does anybody know what happens with that? Right, it just kind of gets dirty and things around it die, and it's just the Earth's natural way. What would happen if you took this huge end pit of toxins and you left it in one stagnant area? It gets worse. That's what'll happen. It'll just generate and get worse and get worse and get worse and get worse. These tailings ponds, as it stands right now, have to be monitored for the next 100 years. Think about that. As it stands, like they gotta monitor them. They have no idea what they're going to do with them. Those are the 2 big plans. Neither of them seem ethical. Neither of them seem moral at all. But that's what we got to deal with them. There's a whole myriad of other problems that go with it. I could stay here all night and talk about them. Along with the tailings ponds, there is cancer rates. There's a cancer cluster within the communities located north of it. The community of Fort Chip. I have family up there. I've had family that died. I do have a personal story of it though. I'm a youth worker. And there was this guy who was like 20 years older than me. We were both applying for the same position as like a games coordinator to train youth for the Dene games. And he had a son that was my age. This is last year. We both applied for the job. We weren't sure that he was going to get it. We both went for the interviews. Then he pulled out. And I was like, well, why did he pull out of the job? He basically got it. It paid pretty well. And his son was sick. So they took his son to the hospital. And they found that he had cancer in his body. And within like about 5 months, his son the cancer took his son. There's a rare kind of cancer that you get in your bile duct from the tar sands. I don't know if I don't want to say it's actually from the tar sands, but I mean it's a really huge variable, and most likely it is from the tar sands. But if you get it without treatment, you die within a month. And if you were to take the population of Fort McMurray, you were to bring in some camp workers, you were to bring in some of maybe the surrounding communities, you would get a population of about 100,000 people. Statistically speaking, one person out of that whole bunch should get unlucky and get that rare bile duct cancer. Rare, it sucks, but I mean, statistically speaking, one person should get that. The community of Fort Chip has, I think, around, I don't know, maybe like 2,000 people. It's not that big. But like over 20 people have had that up there. This stuff like this shouldn't happen. And why I'm here today is I want to tell you about the eventual outcome that we're barreling towards right now, and that's a direct action within the Fort McMurray region. How intense that direct action is going to be is actually up to you guys here that are watching. I want to talk about treaty rights, because treaties play a part in this, and I don't know if you guys know this, but my cousin taught me this yesterday. I didn't know that until then, but everybody here is part of the treaty. You know, there's us that we get certain rights from it, and then there's the ancestors that signed it. But if you're a member of Canada, you're seeking asylum, or if you're seeking to build a life here, you're part of the treaties, and they have to be honored. The interesting twist that treaties have is they kind of give us an environmental foothold. I won't go through all of them. I'll just go through the fishing and hunting. For a Dene person, for like a Dene man or woman, you would have better luck physically trying to pull the color out of your seats than separating a Dene man or woman from their ability to hunt. There was no way that they were going to sign those treaties without the ability to hunt and fish and trap. And they were told, the only way that they were going to sign it was the government told them, we'll protect this right for you. If you sign this forever, as long as the sun shines and the river flows and the grass grows, always and forever, no one will be able to change this. Not one person will be able to change this. When you think about that, our people, like I've done a little bit of hunting up north, and I've done like some skinning. It's this crazy trend that's happening. They're having more and more moose, and you cut them open, they're finding sores in their bodies. I said this to somebody, and he kind of was an ignorant dude. He's like, well, why don't you just eat around the sores? You know, cook it, but eat around the sores. And I'm like, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? He's actually on to something, because we don't eat this moose here that has the sores. We'll kill another moose, and if that one doesn't have sores, we'll still eat it. But who's to say that that animal is in the process of developing it? So in a way, we're still eating around the sores. They did a hunting trip. Some people did a hunting trip up north, and they had to actually go to province over, because they trusted the moose meat over there. The fish are having deformations. I mean, we have treaty rights that say we will protect your ability to hunt and fish. Our animals are dying around us. The world around us is dying. If Canada respected their treaties, stuff like this would happen, but then there'd be something done about it. As it stands right now, nothing's being done about it. There's also like human rights. Everybody who's born is entitled to human rights. It doesn't matter what country you're born in, everyone's entitled to human rights. There's human rights violations happening right now because of the tar sands. I think it's like Article 3, every person that's born is entitled to live, freedom of liberty, and security of person. The right to live. Okay, so you're born in Fort Chip. You have a higher chance of dying of cancer than anywhere else in Canada. It's a cancer cluster. How is that a security of person? When you're afraid to drink the water, when you're afraid to eat the animals, when you're afraid to breathe the air. How is that a security of person when you think about it? You know, we've voiced concerns time and time again. It doesn't matter what nation you're from within Turtle Island. We've always had these problems. And we know one thing, that the government doesn't listen to us at all. The only language, the only thing that the Canadian and the United States government understand is direct action. And I wish we lived in a society where we could just voice our opinions, our concerns. If they're not there to enforce human rights, just the basic of human rights, let's not even talk about treaty rights, just human rights for our people.